Sector Sirius. Planet Australian. Fortress Ministry Angelus Collectio. Chapter Master Gelasius Tyrannus, former Chapter Master. Chief Librarian Atticus Ballant. First Company Orient Solor, now acting Chapter Master. Captain of Second Company Harson Ironsides. Captain of Third Company Saris Marquet. Captain of Fourth Company Clatton Frostslane. Captain of Fifth Company Dorin Siculus. Captain of Sixth Company Tridaeus Melis. Captain of Seventh Company Ahataron Ross. Captain of Eighth Company Joniak Thunderwalker. Captain of Ninth Company Armored Krakenhowl. Captain of 10th Company Alarad Thunderbleeder. Captain of 12th Company Primaris Company Cadmel Silvermoon. Australian was once a largely populated planet of close to 14 billion that was lost during the Age of Strife. The small system tried to start its own empire. While the small empire was colonizing one of its neighboring planets, they ran into a strain of Xenos parasites that would bite the victim and then die. Once a person was bitten by a parasite, the victim would start to develop sores the size of an egg around their body. Their lungs would begin to liquefy and the victim would start to cough blood and pus uncontrollably. The disease was extremely contagious, and before long the colony was totally wiped out, and the disease began jumping to starships. Soon, the system's homeworld was the only thing that stood. Even with the Quartan protocols the world put in place, the disease managed to make it down to the homeworld. The government quarantined entire cities of millions in the last desperate attempts to contain the disease, but the attempts were in vain. The disease nearly wiped out the planet, and only one city remained. And if it was a miracle of the Emperor, the world's scientists developed a vaccine. It was a day of great celebration until the city realized that they had lost over 97% of their population. Mass riots occurred and the city was thrown into panic. The population started to disperse amongst the world. The government became one of many factions among the world that, to this day, still continue their bickering and petty fights. That was until a Space Marine chapter began on the planet. Planet history. The world of Australian was once a world of total war. Tribes of primitive humans battled against one another over futile gain. This continued on for centuries. That was till the Emperor's Great Crusade reached the planet. The Emperor, once seeing the planet engulfed by war, had little hope for it. He gave the task of conquering it to his son Sanguinius and his legion, the Blood Angels. Sanguinius was rather disappointed with such a pointless task, and he passed it on to a guard regiment. The general was a rather smart man, and he was able to make contact with a tribe of techno-barbarians, which appeared to be the strongest faction amongst the fighting world. The general offered them technology and a reward in the future from the Blood Angels. The elders of the tribe discouraged their king that this deal would bring death and destruction to the tribe. The king laughed at this and then posed the question, what if it doesn't? The tribe elders had no real response to this, and so decided to go to war as their king commanded. In the years that followed, the planet's tribes reluctantly surrendered to the barbarians and imperial forces. The barbarians were able to catch the attention of Sanguinius with their ferocity in battle and camaraderie along with their steadfast sense of duty and honor. A planetary federation was formed between the factions to ensure the planet was paying its tithes and duties to the Imperium. The general made good on his promise, and swarms of ships landed on the barbarians' territory filled with technology and tech priests to teach the tribe on the proper use of it. Once reading the reports, Sanguinius was impressed. He too promised that one day in the future great things will be given to them for their assistance in the war. Since that day, the planet was all but forgotten about. That was until the Horus Heresy. The planet, seeing that Imperium was no longer in direct control of them, dismantled the Federation and went back to their primitive warring ways. It wasn't till late 41st millennium that the Blood Angels acted on their promise and sent their finest warrior and enough gene seed to start a new chapter. Estrelion is a world in segmentum obscurus, roughly the size of Terra. The population is said to be roughly 4,500 million people. Estrelion is oddly enough put under two classifications under imperial records. The world is a forge world at the same time as being a feudal world. This is because of the war the planet waged with the Adeptus Mechanicus. The planet surprisingly won the war, and the Mechanicum declared the planet a forge world and allowed them to reproduce their own technology, though the planet is ruled by a feudal system. Chapter History. Since the day they received the Imperium's payment, the barbarian tribe has been obsessed on learning how to produce it and how it works. The tribe even has their own version of a tech priest, commonly known as the Lorem Magistris. Their job consists of studying technology and reproducing it. These Lorem Magistris have no combat roles and are mainly shut within the great forges of the Angelus Collectio, only being seen during great feasts or when meeting with the chapter master to discuss findings or material requirements. Because of these Lorem Magistris, the chapter is able to reproduce some technologies such as bolters, bolter shells, certain power armor pieces, grenades, a wide variety of miscellaneous civilian and military tech, cybernetic limbs, rhino transports, predator tanks, drop pods, jump packs, chain swords, medical equipment, Thunderhawk transports, etc. The forges are also able to build any basic items the chapter needs, such as tables and chairs. The reason the chapter must produce so much of its own equipment is because of its hatred and disdain towards the Adeptus Mechanicus. This hatred is mainly based on the difference of philosophy between the two. While the Mechanicum believes in hoarding and worshipping technology, the angels Tempestus believe in sharing technology to improve living amongst humanity. They also believe the worship of technology is a ridiculous notion, that technology is nothing more than science and parts working in harmony to complete the task it was made for. In the eyes of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the angels Tempestus are heretics and deserve to be excommunicated and destroyed, though there's little they can do about it. The angels Tempestus have a rather different religious view of the Emperor. Instead of seeing him as a god, they see him as a guide to the next life. The angels believe that the Emperor's sons are guardians who watch over dead warriors as the Emperor guides them to Valhalla. Depictions of the Primarchs are a common sight in the crypts of the Angelus Collectio, and this is a part of the symbolism that the Primarchs are guardians. The name Angels Tempestus comes from an ancient legend of Estrelion. On the seas, there was a tall tale amongst traders and merchants. It said that when sailing on the open seas, if a ship were to be attacked, a thick fog would roll in, and out would come a great ship of the cursed. The ship would rip apart the attacker, and if the attacked was not deemed innocent by the ship, you'd be the one ripped apart. The ship was named the Angel Tempestus. In Low Gothic, it roughly means the Angel of the Storm. Once hearing of this tale, Gelasius Tyrannus had decided this a well-suiting name for the new chapter, for they will be the judge and executioner. Chapter Culture. In order to be promoted to the rank of lieutenant, captain, or even chapter master, one must be named in the will of the dead captain, lieutenant, or chapter master. This is done to honor the last wishes of the dead. There are other ways to be promoted within the Angels Tempestus as well. For example, you could do a great heroic deed to earn a minor command rank within a company. Then again, if the will of a former captain or lieutenant is lost or destroyed, then the elders of Estrelion will select the most accomplished men amongst the ranks and run them through a leadership test. Whomever passes the test will get the rank. There's but one other way to be promoted. In the event that the commander is simply too injured to fulfill his commanding duties, Then he may name a successor to take his position. Though Astartes do not require much food to survive, the Astartes in the Angels Tempestus enjoy well-cooked food and strong ale. Though it is not served on the battlefield after most campaigns or major battle, the Astartes return home to Estrilion and enjoy a feast. These feasts are great. The chapter even has serfs for just the preparation of the large meal, and these serfs were dubbed the name Coccus Dominum in Low Gothic, meaning masters of cooking. These serfs take days to prepare the feast, acquiring the ale, the exotic vegetables, and meat from across the galaxy. These feasts are not only meant for enjoying delicious food and strong ales, they also have a religious and symbolic purpose. These feasts originated from the beginning of the techno-barbarian tribe. It started as a symbol of respect to the life of their fallen comrades after great battles. All are welcome to come to these feasts. In a few cases, the entire city has been lit up from the great celebration, with every tribesman and woman out to celebrate. On the northern hemisphere of Estrilion lives an ancient race of birds. These birds were given the name ravens, and they are native to the very mountain area of Estrilion. It is a well-known fact that these creatures are one to be feared amongst the battlefield. They are of massive size and are capable of ripping apart a space marine clad in Terminator armor. Because of the beast's natural strength and ferocity, the chapter has managed to work them in amongst their ranks. They do this by having 10th Company neophytes go out to the distant mountain lands and tame a bird. This is a form of training for a neophyte and is one of the last steps in a neophyte's training. Because of the large use of these ravens on the battlefield, the chapter's Lorem Magistris have made a specially designed transport cruiser to transport the ravens to whatever battlefield they are needed in. These ravens have become an iconic part of the chapter and are feared by any foe of the Angels Tempestus. The companies of the Angels Tempestus do not have uniform size and can consist from 100 marines to 200. The total size of the chapter isn't fully known, but it's been estimated to be around 2,000 men or less. After the events of Baal, where the chapter took considerable blow to their entire force, Guilliman himself gave the Angels 500 Primaris Marines to attempt to make up for their losses. The chapter never really stopped recruiting or keeping an accurate chart of how many Marines there are. Note that this number doesn't include neophytes, as they are not yet considered angels. The Angels Tempestus differ from other chapters' daily routine greatly. The Marines of the Angels Tempestus spend much less time with daily prayers and indoctrination. This is because of the great difference between the chapter cult and the imperial cult. In fact, the cult is far more loose on the Marines, as the vast majority are recruited from the ranks of the Spartana Juventus. The Spartana Juventus are trained and begin the indoctrination progress from 5 standard years old. This indoctrination and training is continuous till they are 10 standard years of age. Now, to some this may seem like a limited amount of time for one to train such an elite warrior, but you must note that these boys have an extremely strict schedule. They have exactly 7 hours of sleep each day. They wake up and spend the next 2 hours in indoctrination, followed by morning meal. Then 6 hours in training, consisting of sparring with fellow Spartana Juventus or weapon training. Once training is finished, there's midday meal. They then have 2 hours free time, then evening meal, and another 2 hours indoctrination before bed. The schedule is repeated daily for the 5 standard years before the best of their young recruits are chosen to undergo gene seed implantation. After implantation, whoever lives must complete the rites of war tests that all neophytes must undertake. However, the neophytes' daily routine doesn't change till they are full-fledged battle brothers. Once they are deemed battle brothers, their schedule changes dramatically. An Astartes schedule is much more open, consisting of 4 hours of sleep and a required 5 hours in training. After that, most of the Marines' day is free time. though it is not free time in the normal sense. Free time for the angels Tempestus means they must be doing something, whether that be standing on guard duty, cleaning their weapons and armor, or training. It's not allowed for any Marine to be doing nothing. Though the Marines have a less strict daily routine, they can be reassigned to do certain jobs by a commanding officer, such as guard duty or going on patrol. Neophyte training. Neophyte training is a simple process. The angels Tempestus do not just take men from planets of the Imperium, they take from the ranks of the Spartana Juventus, though in desperate need the chapter has taken other men from feral worlds. Spartana Juventus are already highly trained soldiers of Estrilion, trained from 5 standard years to be cold-blooded killing machines, though instead with a sense of honor and duty to their people. It is said that 2 Spartana Juventus is worth of a space marine. The ranks of the angels Tempestus aren't exclusive to the Spartana Juventus, for there is also another way to join, and that is if a space marine is willing to sponsor an outsider. In the event of a marine sponsoring an outsider, the outsider is given gene seed and is given the rank of Discipulus. Discipulus don't get any training from the angels Tempestus, for it's expected that every member is a formidable warrior before joining. Instead, the Discipulus are given over to the space marine that sponsored them. The marine is expected to teach the Discipulus the history and culture of Estrilion. He is also expected to be able to teach the Discipulus in combat. In order for a neophyte to be granted the rank of battle brother, the master of arms of the Spartana Juventus must deem them ready. There's a multitude of ways one can do this. One, being able to tame a raven from the great mountainous north, or then again, one could do this by taking part in a great battle or duel the master at arms.